We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. The night it began, Brandon Hale was polishing the bathroom mirror after his late workout, headphones in, when his hand brushed against a box shoved behind the toilet cleaner. He pulled it out, his breath catching. Tom Ford cologne. Not his scent, never had been. Brandon was loyal to his signature bottle of Dior, a fragrance his wife had once called the smell of home. This wasn't home. This was intrusion. He stood frozen, staring at the label like it carried the weight of a verdict. His wife, Lila, had no reason to buy another man's cologne. Not unless that man had already left his presence in their home. His chest tightened. For 3 years, they had built a life together. Date nights, shared bank accounts, lazy Sunday mornings with pancakes, whispered dreams about kids someday. He had worked overtime at the auto shop so she could focus on her marketing career, believing her promise that, we're a team, babe, my turn will come. But that bottle shattered the image. When he stepped into the living room, Lila was lounging on the couch, scrolling her phone with that practiced indifference she always wore after one of their small arguments. Lila, Brandon said evenly, setting the bottle on a coffee table. You want to explain this? Her eyes darted to it, then back to him. For a split second, guilt flickered, but she smothered it beneath fury. Why are you digging through my things? Your things? It was under the bathroom sink we both use. Her tone sharpened. Brandon, not everything is some big drama. Maybe it's old. Maybe it was a gift. You're so paranoid. She snatched up her phone, retreating down the hall, slamming the bedroom door. Minutes later, a notification buzzed on his own screen. She had posted, "Real men don't question their queens. If you can't trust your woman, you don't deserve her." Hundreds of likes poured in. Friends cheering her on with crown emojis, calling her a queen. Brandon clenched his jaw. He wasn't the type to air dirty laundry online. But this wasn't laundry. It was betrayal dressed in arrogance. And if she wanted to build her kingdom publicly, he would make sure it burned publicly too. His mind replayed the cologne scent he'd smelled every day at work. Derek Matthews, his coworker. The same guy Lila had once pretended not to even know when his name came up. Brandon opened Facebook. His hands trembled, not from doubt but from the cold, electric clarity of betrayal. He typed 7 words under a post. Real queens don't need secret kings. Then, with surgical precision, he tagged Derek's longtime girlfriend, Aria. Within minutes, the post erupted like gasoline meeting fire. Aria's reply struck like lightning. Secret kings? Derek? Care to explain? Brandon leaned back, heart pounding, watching as the empire his wife built on lies began to crumble brick by brick. The comments section turned into a digital battlefield within half an hour. Aria came at Derek like a storm tearing through glass. Derek, why is your cologne sitting in another woman's bathroom? And why is Lila preaching about trust at the exact same time? Derek tried to backpedal in the way only guilty men do, tossing words out like cheap Band-Aids. Baby, you're overreacting. You know I only want you. That cologne could have been left anywhere, maybe months ago. Aria didn't buy it. She replied with venom sharp enough to cut steel. Months ago? The Nordstrom sticker says last week. Stop lying. Brandon sat on his friend Marcus's couch, phone in hand, watching the screen explode with shares and comments. Marcus passed him a slice of pizza, grinning. Bro, this is better than any game on TV. But for Brandon, it wasn't entertainment. It was vindication. For too long, Lila had twisted every argument into an accusation about him. Controlling, jealous, insecure. Now the world saw the truth unraveling in real time. Then came the reinforcements. A coworker of Lila's, Janet, jumped into the thread like she'd been waiting for the moment. Oh, so that's why you've been leaving early every Tuesday and Thursday. All those mysterious dentist appointments. Girl, your teeth must be perfect by now. The crowd roared in emojis and reactions. Brandon almost laughed despite the knot in his chest. Aria wasn't finished either. She started piecing together Derek's past Instagram stories. Screenshots appeared in the comments. Late-night selfies from Derek claiming to be at the office. But the backgrounds told a different story. The gray curtains in Brandon's apartment. The patterned rug Lila had bought from IKEA last fall. Clear as daylight. The crowd smelled blood. And then the final blow came like a hammer. Arya uploaded footage from her own doorbell camera, grainy but undeniable, for separate clips of Lila walking into Derek's apartment, each one stamped with the date and time, each one aligning with the very evening she told Brandon she was working late or helping a friend. The silence that followed online lasted less than 5 minutes before exploding into chaos. People Brandon hadn't spoken to in years messaged him privately. Screenshots, sympathy, even popcorn emojis. Lila tried damage control. She posted beneath it all, "This is a huge misunderstanding. Brandon and I just had a fight, and he's being petty. Please don't believe everything you see." But her defense fell flat when her best friend, Tamara, chimed in to defend her. "Kyle, Brandon, has always been controlling. Remember when he didn't want you going to that retreat?" That retreat. Brandon's pulse spiked. He remembered it too well. The one where Lila had come home with a bruise high on her thigh, insisting it was from a curling iron. Brandon typed slowly, every word dagger. "You mean the retreat where she came home with a curling iron burn on her inner thigh?" That one. The internet howled. Memes were born before his eyes. Back at their apartment, Brandon's phone lit up with call after call. Lila's name flashing again and again. When he ignored her, texts poured in, a storm of contradictions. "You'll regret this. I'll ruin you. Baby, please, it's not what it looks like. Do you really believe strangers over me?" Brandon didn't answer. Not a single word. He had given her years of explanations, patience, second chances. Now, he gave her silence. Hours later, while the thread still raged, Lila's mother, Donna, showed up at Brandon's door with her daughter and younger sister in tow. They tried to stage an intervention, painting Brandon as the aggressor. "Brandon, sweetheart," Donna said, resting a hand on his shoulder as though soothing a child. "You've humiliated Lila in front of her friends and her job. This isn't the way grown men handle problems." Brandon's jaw tightened. "I made one comment. She humiliated herself by leaving evidence scattered through our life." Lila's voice cracked with fake tears. "I can't believe you're throwing away 3 years over nothing. Derek and I are just friends." "Friends," Brandon cut in sharply. "Friends don't leave their cologne hidden in your bathroom. Friends don't appear in your coworkers' selfies from my apartment." Donna huffed. "All men have female friends. You're being incredibly insecure." But then Lila made her fatal mistake. She snapped, "Fine. Yes, Derek has been here, but only because Arya is controlling and jealous. He needed someone to talk to." Her sister nodded approvingly. Donna exhaled like it explained everything. But Brandon didn't flinch. He pulled out his phone, opened the voice note Arya had sent him, and pressed play. Derek's slurred voice filled the room. "Baby, I'm sorry. I lied. I wasn't at the gym. I was with her again. She doesn't mean anything. You're my future. Please don't leave me." The room went still. Lila's fake tears vanished, replaced by sheer panic. "Where did you get that?" she hissed. Brandon met her eyes, calm and cold. "Arya and I compared notes. Turns out, you're not the only one Derek's been visiting." Donna staggered back, color draining from her face. "Lila, is this true?" Lila opened her mouth, but no excuses came. Brandon set his keys on the table, his voice level but final. "This is my apartment. My name on the lease. You've got 30 days to pack and leave. A legal notice will follow tomorrow." Lila erupted, screaming about financial abuse, about how he owed her for the years she invested in their relationship. Her sister threatened to expose him online. Brandon just shook his head, his silence louder than any words. For the first time, he held the power. And deep inside, a new thought crystallized. Revenge wasn't just about exposing lies. It was about making sure the liar never dared to build another kingdom again. The next morning, Brandon woke up to chaos, not in his apartment, but online. Lila had gone nuclear. Her new post sprawled across Facebook like a manifesto. "After years of emotional manipulation, isolation, and controlling behavior, I am finally free. Brandon wouldn't let me have male friends, constantly check my phone, and try to monitor my every move. I'm done with the abuse. Women, know your worth." Hundreds of shares. Strangers Brandon had never met calling him toxic, a narcissist, even trash. Lila's friends rallied around her, painting her as a victim rising from the ashes. Brandon sat at his kitchen table, coffee in hand, watching it all unfold. The rage bubbled, but he didn't lash out. Not yet. He had receipts, every message, every screenshot, every proof of her betrayal. And unlike her, he knew patience was the sharpest blade. He didn't need to wait long. That afternoon, Arya entered the fray with fire. She posted her own story, tagging Lila directly. "Since you're talking about manipulation, let's discuss how you knowingly pursued my boyfriend. Here are the screenshots of you messaging him first, calling him things I won't repeat, sending pictures, and saying, 'I don't care if you have a girlfriend. Brandon isn't controlling. You are predatory.'" The screenshots left no room for spin. Lila tried anyway. She claimed Derek had love-bombed her, that she was manipulated too. But the tide was shifting. And then Brandon's former roommate, Patrick, dropped the hammer. Patrick still had access to old cloud storage from the apartment he once shared with Brandon and Lila. And inside that folder sat video files, footage from their security camera, clips of Lila sneaking different men into the apartment when Brandon was on night shifts a year earlier. Brandon didn't blast them online. He didn't need to. Instead, he forwarded them directly to Donna, Lila's mother, with a single message: "You deserve to know the truth." Within the hour, Donna called. Her voice was nothing like before. No scolding, no motherly defense. It was heavy, ashamed. "Brandon, I didn't know. I truly didn't know. There's more," Brandon said quietly. "But I'm not here to destroy her. I just need her to leave me alone." Silence. Then a sigh. "I'll talk to her." For the first time, Brandon felt the scales tip. But Lila wasn't done. 2 days later, Brandon's elderly neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, knocked on his door. The 68-year-old woman held up her phone. "Brandon, honey, I caught her." On the screen was a set of photos. Lila outside his apartment, trying to jimmy the lock with a credit card. When police arrived, she told them she lived there and had lost her key. But her ID listed Donna's address. They gave her a warning for attempted break-in. That night, Brandon lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Each attempt of hers to smear or manipulate only dug her deeper. And still, she pushed. The breaking point came when his co-worker, Michelle, pulled him aside at the office. "Brandon, I got this message last night." She showed him her phone. A DM from a fake account using his name and picture. "You looked incredible in that dress. Always wanted to tell you how sexy you are." Michelle frowned. "I knew it wasn't you. But others might not." Brandon's chest tightened with cold fury. Lila had created a fake profile, impersonating him, trying to sabotage his career. Wrong move. Because Brandon worked in IT, and Michelle's husband was a cybersecurity expert. Within 20 minutes, they traced the IP address straight to Lila's sister's apartment. That same day, Brandon filed a police report for harassment and identity theft. His lawyer sent a cease and desist order with language sharp enough to cut through any of Lila's theatrics. The walls were closing in on her. And then, fate delivered an unexpected ally. Remember Derek's other queens? Turns out there were more than a few. One of them, Bethany, a paralegal, reached out to Arya. Another, Simone, worked in human resources. A third, Yuki, was a social media manager. Together, they began unraveling Derek's double life. And in the process, they uncovered something darker. Lila and Derek weren't just cheating. They were strategizing, building what they mockingly called kingdoms. Derek pursuing girlfriends, Lila targeting boyfriends, deliberately wrecking relationships for the thrill of it. They even kept a private Instagram account documenting their conquests, photos captioned with things like king and queen, building empires one couple at a time. The evidence was damning. And when Yuki forwarded the account to Lila's company, ironically, a wellness brand that preached trust and authenticity, they fired her within the week. Her reputation shattered, her job gone, her mother finally seeing the truth. Lila was cornered. Brandon didn't gloat. He didn't need to. He carried himself at work as if nothing happened, while her world caved in piece by piece. His revenge wasn't the screaming, destructive kind. It was colder, quieter, watching her crumble under the weight of her own lies. But one evening, as he prepared dinner alone in the apartment that finally felt like his again, his phone rang. Lila's number. Against his better judgment, he answered. Her voice was cracked, raw. "Brandon, I need help. Please. I can't afford a lawyer." They're coming after me. Derek's ruined. I have nothing left. Brandon's chest tightened, but not with sympathy. With clarity. You should have thought of that before building kingdoms on people's lives. There was silence, then her last desperate attempt. I'm pregnant. Brandon actually laughed. A short, humorless sound. No, you're not. I had a vasectomy 2 years ago. Never told you because I wanted to see if you'd ever try this card. Guess I was right. Silence. Then a broken whisper. You're cruel. No, he said firmly. I'm finished. He hung up. For the first time in months, he felt free. But deep inside, he knew his revenge wasn't finished yet. The lawsuit was coming, and when it landed, it would crush not only Derek, but also the woman who once called herself his queen. And this time, he wouldn't even have to lift a finger. The lawsuit hit like a tidal wave. Bethany, the paralegal, had coordinated everything. With Aria's help, she gathered Derek's other victims. Screenshots, messages, timestamps, even the private kingdom, Instagram. Within weeks, 4 women filed a civil suit against both Derek and Lila for intentional emotional harm. Their evidence painted a clear picture. This wasn't messy love. It was deliberate manipulation. Derek lost his pharmaceutical job almost immediately once the story reached HR. His networking with doctors turned out to include affairs with 3 of them. The company had no choice but to sever ties. Stripped of income, Derek moved back into his mother's house, trading his sleek car for bus rides. Lila's downfall was no softer. Fired from her wellness company for behavior inconsistent with core values, she was forced to move back with her mother, Donna. But Donna wasn't the same enabling parent anymore. After seeing every receipt Brandon had shared, she set rules. Lila would pay rent, keep curfews, and attend therapy sessions twice a week. Brandon didn't celebrate. He simply watched. Revenge didn't need fireworks. It thrived in silence, in watching liars choke on the truth they once denied. Still, the drama reached him indirectly. Friends sent updates. Derek working at a cell phone store, humbled. Lila posting shallow motivational quotes online. Queens rebuild from ashes, to an audience of maybe a dozen likes. But every now and then, Brandon would catch her shadow. She viewed his LinkedIn 17 times in one day before he blocked her. She even tried to send a friend request through a fake account, as if he wouldn't notice. And yet, life for Brandon moved forward. He focused on his routines, early gym sessions, long shifts at the auto shop, weekends spent rebuilding his old Mustang in peace. For the first time in years, his apartment felt like a sanctuary instead of a battlefield. The silence wasn't lonely, it was freedom. One evening, as he wrapped his hands for a sparring session at his boxing gym, a familiar voice startled him. Legendary comment, by the way. He turned to see Lindsay, a trainer he'd known casually. She smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. That whole post. You shut down with 7 words. Everyone at the gym was talking about it. Brandon chuckled. Not exactly how I planned to go viral. Maybe not, she said, tying her ponytail. But sometimes the right words break the loudest lies. They grab a protein shake after class, talking until the gym lights dimmed. For the first time in a long while, Brandon didn't feel bitterness in his chest, just possibility. Weeks turned into months. The lawsuit dragged on, but Brandon stayed distant. He didn't need to testify. The women had enough evidence on their own. His revenge had already landed where it mattered, stripping Lila and Derek of the control they thrived on. And as spring turned to summer, Brandon realized something profound. Revenge wasn't about destroying them completely. It was about reclaiming himself. He hadn't just survived betrayal. He had turned it inside out, leaving them exposed while he walked away lighter. One night, as he leaned against his rebuilt Mustang, watching the sunset paint the sky gold, he thought of that cologne bottle. That stupid, careless clue they'd hidden behind toilet cleaner. He had given it to his cousin as a birthday gift. The cousin had laughed, saying, "Man, this makes me feel like a king." Brandon had smiled. Just make sure you're the only king in your queen's life. And that was the final note in his story. Because kingdoms built on lies don't just crumble. They collapse into dust, leaving nothing behind but lessons, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing the truth won't stay buried forever. Brandon didn't just watch their empire burn. He walked away from the ashes, stronger, steadier, and finally free.